Board will now convene to close session. I'm not going to take that out.
So you gotta teach me what to do, Frank. All I
Well,
can do
they
is
still
talk.
need to do something on their side because you don't have the ability to be translate yet. So just sit tight. I'm gonna
The link has to be Pintado. So I can just send you the link. We have so that's what I did. Second grade. And, this is the first time. Yes, yes.
Okay. I would like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. We're reconvening to open session. There is no action taken by the board in closed section. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We love this out, but I still think it's important for us to read our land acknowledgement. Would someone like to volunteer? Trustee Manuel, would you like to do the honors?
Yeah, we want to open up this meeting by acknowledging with respect and love that the land we are on today is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Ohlone Chochenyo First People. We recognize and thank the Ohlone people as the original stewards of this land. The indigenous people must not be spoken about in the past context as if they left on their own accord when the real causes were white supremacy, manifest destiny, and U.S. colonization. By recognizing we stand on occupied indigenous territory of the Ohlone people, we recommit ourselves to listen to Native leadership and stand in solidarity with people struggling against systems of oppression throughout the world, past and present.
Thank you. May we have roll call, please?
Campbell's.
Here.
Ishihara.
Here.
Chima.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Here.
Schwannauer.
Here. Okay. Now we have the approval of the agenda, item 4.3. May I have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda? I will.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Campbell's.
Aye.
Ishihara. Aye. Chima.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Schwannauer.
Aye. We are now on public comment. Hearing visitors on topics on the agenda. If you wish to give, are we on Zoom? We're on Zoom. Okay, so if you're on Zoom and you'd like to give public comment, please use the raise your hand function or press star 9. And you'll be allowed to speak for 2 minutes. Are there any speakers via Zoom that wish to address the board for topics on the agenda?
There are no speakers.
No speakers. Okay. So number 6 is an information item, 6.1 trustee area map information. Please, I think Dr. Thompson will be taking that one.
I'll start it off and I'll turn it over to our partners after that. We have 3 districting partners here that will give the actual presentation. But to start off, I'll just give an overview to remind us where we're at. there, perfect. Okay, so just for anybody out there, we do have translation services available in 3 different languages. And if you need help, you can raise your hand in Zoom. Again, the instructions are in 3 different languages as well, but I don't think we have anybody out there. So we'll move forward. Okay, so for tonight, I'm covering the introductions. We're going to have the presentation by our firm that's helping us with the maps. You can have a discussion, we'll hold a public hearing, and then if you feel comfortable with one of the options presented tonight, you have the option of taking action to recommend a new trustee area map to the Alameda County Office of Education. So that's the plan for tonight. And again, we have translations available in 3 different languages. As far as the process goes, you're familiar with this, but just a quick review, we had based on all the reasons we've covered a couple different times from the 2020 census, we had new map options generated that you've seen. We got your feedback and we made additional changes to those options. Then we took those options to the community on the 29th and had a community forum for a community input on the revised options. And here we are tonight, where we'll have our meeting to look at where the board can discuss the revised options. We'll hold a formal public hearing on them. And then again, you can either select to approve those tonight or if you want more time, or there's new ideas that come up. The deadline for this board to approve them at the latest would be next Tuesday, the 19th. So you can approve something tonight or wait until next Tuesday and approve something that based on how things go tonight. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to our partners, our redistricting partners, to kind of go over the new maps and then answer any questions.
All right, fantastic. My name is Kay Montpleasure. I am a project manager with Redistricting Partners, and we'll go ahead and get started on our presentation. So tonight we are going to cover a few things. First, redistricting basics, our traditional redistricting principles. We will go over our current 2020 census data, our 3 draft maps, and then possibly a final adoption tonight. And like John said, if not tonight, on the 19th. So first, what is redistricting? It is the process of adjusting district lines every 10 years after the release of US Census data. So when people usually think of redistricting, they think of congressional and state legislative districts, but local governments, local districts also go through this process. So New Haven USD also goes through this process to ensure that districts are rebalanced after each census. And beyond creating districts of equal population, redistricting also serves to empower local communities and also preserves voting rights. So we have a number of criteria that we follow, and it's been used nationally and upheld by courts. And when we call these our traditional redistricting principles, and these are ranked. So the first of these is that districts should be of relatively equal size. And when we talk about size, we are talking about people or total population and not just citizens or voters. We also want to make sure that each district is contiguous. So districts don't hop or jump. Or another way to say this is that you can draw them with one line. We maintain communities of interest, which are groups of people that would benefit from being maintained in one single district. We also follow city, county, and local government lines. And we keep districts compact in both appearance and function. So when we say compact in appearance, I'm sure when you hear the word gerrymander, you think of those long, snaky districts. We want to make sure that our districts are as compact as possible, so as square or circular as possible, and that we're not skipping populations to grab other ones. And then we talk about compactedness and function. So 2 communities, when you're looking at a map on paper, those 2 communities may look like they're right next to each other, but they could be separated by a freeway or a river or even a mountain that makes them really separate. So we want to make sure that we're looking at compactedness in both of those ways. So here we have our existing lines for New Haven Unified School Districts. And so this is our data table. So our biggest district currently is District 1, and our smallest districts in population-wise are District 2 and 5. So we look at total deviation, and it has to be at a maximum of 10%. And so a total deviation is the sum of the absolute values of the highest and lowest districts. So we add the District 1, which is the highest, 6.6%, to District 2 or 5, which is the same at negative 5.6%, to get a total planned deviation of 12.2%. So we need to stay under that 10% deviation, so we will have to see changes. And we have 3 plans for you tonight. And these plans are different than the ones that we saw earlier in March. We gave these in our or presented these in our community forum on March 29th.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you please repeat one more time the total deviation, how it has varied in our district? You just explained it. Can you just repeat that information? District 1 plus District 2, 3, 4. How did you say it? Can you say it one more time?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question? I couldn't hear you that well.
My question is, can you repeat the information you just mentioned that we have total deviation more than 10%?
Absolutely, sorry about that. So when we look at total deviation, so deviation is how far we are from the ideal total population of each of the districts. So our ideal number would mean that each district is totally equal in population. But it's hard to get there because we also look at all of our other traditional redistricting principles like compactedness and communities of interest. So we aren't looking to get a total deviation of 0%, but we are looking to get under 10%. So here we have a total deviation of 12.2%, which is above that maximum of 10% deviation. And the reason that we have a 12.2% deviation is because District 1 is over in population by 6.6%, and Districts 2 and 5 are under in population by 5.6%. So our districts are not as equal as we need them to be. Any questions from there?
Okay, I got it. So 6.6 plus 3.3 plus 1.3, that's how you got the number 12 points, something, right?
No, actually, so we don't really even look at the 1.3 and 3.3. We look at the absolute value, which is the highest and the lowest population. So this is actually kind of rare that we have 2 districts that have the same percentage for the lowest population. Usually it's one district has the highest and one district has the lowest, but we have a tie for the lowest with Districts 2 and 5. And so what we do to get that absolute value is we add the highest percentage to the lowest percentage. So we're adding 6.6 to 5.6. So that's how we get 12.2.
I missed that part. We were taking the absolute value. So, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Wonderful. And do we have any other questions about deviation? Because it is a very complicated thing. Awesome, wonderful. So we do have 3 plans to review tonight. Like I said, we introduced these at our community forum on March 29th. And before that, we had some different maps, and we took the wonderful feedback that we got from the board and made some adjustments from there. So we have some new maps to show you tonight that we showed on March 29th as well. So first we have draft plan A, and these are the proposed lines for draft plan A. And right here we have an overlay for our current lines. So the proposed lines are the black outline, and the current lines are the colors. So as you can see, we have a change in District 4 and 5, which we do see in each of the draft maps. And then we also have a change up in the corner of 2 and 1. So a big difference in those original draft maps that we saw in March is that we originally had a center portion of District 1 going into District 2, but we took feedback on how the community would have been affected, and we changed that to be up in the more northern part of District 1 and 2. So here we have our data table, and we have a much smaller deviation than our current lines with a total deviation of 5.7%, which is absolutely within the Fair Maps Act boundaries. And now we have draft plan B, where we see a little bit more of a change in districts 1 and 2. So again, we have that same change in 4 and 5, which we will see in plans A, B, and C. We have that same change that we had in plan A in the northern part of 1 and 2. But additionally, we have more of District 1 going to that southern part of District 2. And here we can see the data tables where we keep our majority minority districts, which we do in each of our draft plans, and even a lower total deviation of 2.5%. And finally, we have draft plan C, where we see a little bit of a different change of 2 going into 3. So again, we have that same change in 4 and 5, and also that same change that we see in districts 1 and 2. But additionally, you can see that little area of 3 going into 2 to lower the deviation there. And we can see our data table here, keeping the same majority minority districts. And then we have a total deviation of 5.1%. So all of these are low deviations, and it's really just about where the community movement is and keeping that equal population. So I do have, if anybody wants to really zoom in on where these boundaries are, we do have our Google Maps versions that I can zoom in and share with you. And finally, we have our timeline here. So this is our draft maps public hearing and possibly final adoption. And that is our presentation. And again, I would be happy to share those Google Maps with you as well.
Yes, please do.
Wonderful. I'd be happy to share my screen if possible. Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so first we have draft plan A, which is our most minimum change draft plan. And so each of the draft plans have the same changes that we made in draft plan A, with additional changes as well. So the changes in draft plan A are here. We extended from Dyer Street up. The original boundaries were Dyer Street, and we added this area here up Lisa Drive, up Cabela Street, Fair Ranch Road, down Alvarado Boulevard. So that's the change that we made in 4 and 5. And again, that's in every draft plan that we have. And additionally, we made this change, which is really from Mission Boulevard up this Trevor Street up here. This is the additional change that we made to 1 and 2 to equalize population and keep all of the schools in their same districts. And this is also in each of the draft maps presented. So this is draft plan A, really just the most minimum changes. And then we have draft plan B that has the same changes that you saw in draft plan A, but additionally takes in this neighborhood past Dakota Road and goes to Union Square. And so that just equalizes the population even more. And I believe it was 2.1% deviation as opposed to 5 point, sorry, I can't remember. It was 5.7 for draft plan A. Thank you. So that is the change that we see in draft plan B, which is that Dakota Road going to Union Square. And then we have draft plan C, again, the same changes that you saw in 4 and 5, the same changes up in the northern part of 1 and 2, but then an additional change here from what looks like this river over up to Whipple Road, which helps equalize population in 2 and 3 as well.
So this is draft plan A?
C right now.
C, okay, yes.
And so the lowest deviation would be D followed by C and then A.
Correct.
When we take a look at the lowest deviation, I think we also need to take a look at the C numbers as well. I know that we are trying to have lowest deviation based on the number of people, not the voting population. But it does make a little bit of sense that if we also take a look at the C, that's why the data is there. So, for the purpose of deviation, if district 4 and 5, so because their deviation was less than 10%, so there is a possibility if we want to, then we don't have to change the boundary lines. Is that true?
No, so we will have to choose a map or give feedback and where you would like to see changes before the 19th. But we cannot use current lines because we are over that 10% maximum in deviation. So our minimum change would be draft plan A with those changes to 4 and 5 and 1 and 2. And then we see additional changes in B and C. But we will have to see some change with district boundaries because the deviation is a bit too high, but not by much.
I see. So even though the deviation is in, the highest deviation is between 1 and 2. So we have to adjust all the boundaries. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, so the deviation is currently at 12.2%, which isn't much higher than 10%. Which is why we have a minimum change for draft plan A, and then gave you a couple of those options of where you would like to see some neighborhood changes from there. So we do need to choose a draft map, whether, and again, this is iterative. So if you would like to see additional changes, we can make that happen. But we will have to see changes to the boundaries.
You mentioned earlier about sharing the map, what you were just sharing earlier. I would like to see the streets. I know you did share your presentation with us, but I'd like to be able to zoom in and see the streets and creeks that run across there. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Okay, so we can start with draft plan A. So draft plan A has the minimum change that we see in each of the draft plans. So in 4 and 5, the change that we made, the original boundaries that we have currently are Dyer Street. And then we added this area from Alvarado Boulevard up to Fair Ranch Road, down Cabela Street, Lisa Drive, and then down Regents Boulevard. So we added that area to District 5. And then the other change that we made to Draft Plan A, which is also in Draft Plan B and C, is we extended from Mission Boulevard in District 2, excuse me, and we go up this street over to Trevor. Oh man, I hope I don't mispronounce this too much. Chicoine Avenue, and then down Caleb Place, and that is the new boundary for District 2 that we take from District 1 to help equalize population. And so again, both of those changes are in Draft Plan A, B, and C. So then if we look at Plan B, we have the same changes to 4 and 5 and 1 and 2. And then additionally, to help equalize population even more, we picked up for District 2 from District 1, Union Square, down this Alvarado Niles Road. We picked up this neighborhood here to help equalize population even further. And then for Draft Plan C, we see the same change in 4 and 5, that same change in 2 and 1, but then additionally, from Whipple Road down to this river, which I'm sorry, I am not sure what the river is called. I'm sure someone could help me out. That is the change that we saw for Draft Plan C. So extended from Railroad Avenue to add this small community here.
What is the name of that road?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I don't even see if that's the residential rate.
It is.
It's residential, it's that, so.
And
Oh,
then,
I got the newer,
Yeah,
the
the
newer
new
one is
ones,
the
yeah.
black one. Yeah, I see. Okay,
When you turn on
yeah,
railroad.
yeah. So originally that was the green.
What is the, on B, what's the board, what's the thing here that's creating that border? Where we are right now, that's railroad tracks, right?
Yeah, so it was originally on the railroad tracks here. And so this is just one census block. It doesn't look like it's necessarily on a road, but we just added this one census block here to District 2 from District 3.
Okay. And then the other version, those are those apartments right there, part.
Yeah, on the, to
Yeah.
the Union Square, yeah.
Union Square.
Yeah.
apartments right behind it.
Yeah.
These are the newer developments.
There's one. Okay. Any more questions from the board? Okay.
Yeah, we should probably hold public hearing.
Yes, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so we'll go on to the public hearing, item 7.1. We will now convene a public hearing to receive public testimony concerning revised trustee voting area maps. As a part of this public hearing, members of the public may submit comments on the revisions of voting area boundaries for the New Haven election system. Speakers will be given 2 minutes to provide comments on this matter and this matter only. We have received no cards from people who wish to address this subject during the public hearing. Are there any speakers on Zoom? Again, you'll use the raise your hand function, or if you're calling in, you'll use *9.
There are no speakers on Zoom.
Okay. gonna wait 5 seconds. Just in case someone can't find their raise hand button.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, are there any speakers? Okay. Having no more comments, the public hearing to receive public testimony concerning revised trustee area maps is now closed. Item 8.1. The board, we may now take action on any of the 3 maps presented from our redistricting partners. So we could select one of these maps brought to us tonight, or we can provide feedback and ask our partners to create more maps for us to adopt next week. So, does anybody want to make a motion to adopt any particular map?
I would like to move to adopt map B.
I second.
Okay, map B, okay. Is there any discussion?
I personally feel like because this information was not available for the demographic data, this was not attached, so I need more time to take a look at the choices we have. So if we can move this to action item to the next board meeting on 19th.
Are you making a substitute motion or?
This is my comment of the discussion. I would like to have if other board members will.
Okay, but there's been a motion for a vote, so unless you want to make a substitute motion or make a discussion about this particular map, then we'll need to vote before you can make a motion to table this or anything like that.
So, okay. I would like to make a motion to move this action item to the next board meeting on April 19th.
Again, we'll have to take this vote
I see.
before,
Okay.
before you can make a motion like that. Okay, is there any other discussion on this map?
I just want to summarize why I'm thinking B as well. Our objective was to make sure that we were below the 10% deviation, and all of them do qualify. But it is the lowest deviation, and it has the same changes as A, and but with differences in area 1 and 2. Based on the presentation that I've seen, it is clear to me that that might be the best option at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to echo trustee Canlis. 2.5 is the smallest deviation. I also ran some numbers and looked at the distribution, and there's no really big concentration or movement of any particular, at least the ones that I've been able to tell, hasn't had a very large impact either way. They all seem relatively even. In terms of that's the equal size part of it, contiguous. They all seem contiguous. They seem to not really have an effect either way on communities of interest, as far as I can tell. We're not really following county or city guidelines really anyway, so that's not really a consideration. But they are compact. And so for all of those reasons, using the generally accepted principles for redistricting, I think B, at least just looking at the variance distribution, seems to be the best.
Do you have anything to say?
It just represented the only area that's not being affected. I mean, I really don't want to sway my put a vote on either one. I'm open to whatever options out there with the rest of the board that's being affected, so.
Give me a second here. Yeah, I think Plan B, one gives us the lowest deviation. Two does not change the makeup of area two as much as like see what, as far as demographics are concerned. And, also closes the gap in citizen voting age population a little bit more. And to me, it looks good. I mean, I think it's great. So I guess we will need to take a vote. Roll call, please.
Candace.
Aye.
Ishiguro.
Aye.
Shima.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Schweinmauer.
Aye. All right, so we have passed map B. Congratulations, everybody. And now that will go to the Board of Education on,
We'll send it to them. I'll get it to them this week as the recommendation from the board for their consideration.
okay,
You've done your job.
congratulations, Board. I would like to adjourn this meeting and we will come back at 6 p.m. for Celebrating Schools.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations.
Thank you. to get started right away. And the first school presenting tonight is our Dakota School for Independent Study, which also runs a personalized learning academy. Yay! Okay, so Director of Alternative Programs, Grace Kim, will share a presentation in celebration of Dakota School for Independent Study and Personalized Learning Academy.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Thompson and members of the board. My name is Grace Kim, Director of Alternative Options Programs and the Principal of Dakota School for Independent Study, which also includes the Personalized Learning Academy, or PLA. The past 2 years have been challenging with the COVID-19 pandemic. However, New Haven has served its students well by providing educational options such as the traditional independent study program and a PLA. So the second year of PLA has gone well. We have increased our enrollment by over 100 students. The start of the school year was very hectic because we had more students than we originally anticipated, and which meant the addition of 8 new teachers after the school year started. But this was a good thing. We were serving our students. I'm also pleased to say that our traditional independent study program also grew by over 20 students. The increase in enrollment is great, but we do have some challenges. One is to increase the level of engagement for our students and families where they are attending school more and also by completing more schoolwork. The teachers have built very good relationships with students within their class, but we need to build a stronger school community. As in other schools, but more so in a virtual learning environment, we are challenged to provide needed social emotional support to our students. We need educational options. The traditional school setting where one attends a brick and mortar building is something that we are accustomed to, and it works for the majority of our students. But this model does not work for everyone. Not all students learn the same. Some do better on their own. Some need the flexibility of when they do school. And some need to learn from home for health reasons. Therefore, we need to provide educational options such as DSIS and PLA. Dakota School, I believe, exemplifies the access portion of the district goal of equity, access, and achievement. Abe is a current senior who has attended Dakota School for many years. He is a good example of a Dakota student. This is what he has to say about DSIS.
Hi, my name is Abdul Eid. I'd like to first thank Ms. Crump and Ms. Stevens for believing in me when I didn't myself. I started attending Dakota School when I needed a change of learning environment. I fell behind in high school and started to get individualized attention every month. Dakota School helps all students to work at their own pace and having the option to work at home. The flexibility to let me work as fast as I wanted, this worked better for me. In the end, I finished all classwork earlier than expected. I'd like to thank my family to keep me motivated and to keep me going.
Abe was not always making the best choices in terms of his education, and he fell behind. Since he is a quiet person, he could have easily fallen through the cracks. He really needed a change of learning environment where he could receive personalized attention. And he received this from his advisor and his counselor, who really believed in him and encouraged him to reach his goal of graduation. Somehow in the second semester of his junior year, something clicked for Abe, and he became a very motivated student, and he completed classes faster than expected, so much so that he finished his coursework in December. Damien has been in PLA for 2 years now, and he has a good reason why his family selected this program.
Hello, my name is Damien Reynosa, and I am in 3rd grade. PLA is something myself and my family are thankful for because it keeps me safe at home. I have an autoimmune disease called type 1 diabetes. And when COVID first came out, it was scary because I am more at risk because I don't know what it could do to my blood sugar. PLA has kept me safe at home and still let me be able to see my classmates, my teachers all together, but just behind the scenes screen. PLA has kept me safe and not have to worry about getting sick.
Many of our families selected PLA due to safety concerns stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are proud that New Haven has this program to serve our students. In addition to health concerns, many of our students selected DSIS or PLA due to mental health concerns. Going to school every day, what many other students brought on anxiety and stress. These students needed a different educational option. In addition, even though most of the schoolwork is done independently at home, we try to foster a classroom environment, especially at the elementary level. Parents have also found that DSIS and PLA also met their needs, their family needs on their schedule. Ms. Aguilar will explain how she feels about PLA.
Hello everyone, this is Michelle Aguilar, a parent of 8th grader twins. At first we were hesitant about PLA. I thought my kids would learn something, but we were totally wrong. PLA is not just a better way to be safe from the pandemic. It is the best way for a child to become more independent, improve their academic performances, increase their motivations and confidence. It really works for my twins. Big shout out to our principal, Ms. Kim, and to all the teachers, especially to Ms. Z and Ms. Cross. They're always on the go to guide their students. Thank you so much.
Parents appreciate the rigor of our online programs, and due to the nature of our school, students must learn to become independent, self-motivated, and have good time management. These are valuable skills that will serve them well in life. Since students are doing school from home, parents also tend to have a more active role in the education of their child. Teachers really enjoy working at DSIS and PLA. If you ask them why, most would say that they get to know their students so much better than their previous site. Making connections with students is why teachers went into this profession. This is possible because the teachers interact with less students and develop strong, positive relationships. This becomes a great benefit for the students where they interact with 1 or 2 teachers at a time. Tina Babadilla will explain the additional benefits to DSIS and PLA.
One of the unique features of independent study, which increases equity, access, and achievement, is the flexibility of student schedules and the one-on-one interactions between students and teachers. Because students take just 2 courses at a time, they can take ROP courses as well as take classes at Logan or even Chabot or Ohlone. One of my students attends 2 classes at Logan and 2 here at DSIS. Students can also have a job and attend to other responsibilities they may have at home by tailoring their school and study schedules around their various obligations. Just this morning, a colleague and I worked together to alter a student's schedule so the student could babysit her baby sister on the days her mother has to work. Another benefit of DSIS is the ability for teachers to tailor curriculum according to individual student strengths and needs, which is enabled by low class sizes and the one-on-one interaction between students and teachers. For instance, a student of mine just gave birth, so I selected readings involving the intellectual, emotional, and physical development of infants. Not only has this given her motivation to do the work while attending to her newborn, but she is receiving material that is relevant to her personal life. She's also able to schedule her check-ins with me while her baby is sleeping. For those students needing flexibility and individualized attention, Dakota School for Independent Study is the place to go.
Maricela Stevens is our long-term counselor. She has always has the social and emotional well-being of the student in the forefront before academic success. Here she will explain how some of the structures we have in place to support students toward the goal of graduation.
Hello, my name is Maricela Stevens, and I'm the school counselor at Dakota School for Independent Study. At Dakota School, we provide an environment which supports students both academically and emotionally by providing equity and access opportunities for achievement. One of the ways in which we provide these services is through assigning students to one advisory teacher, which serves similar to that of a case carrier. This advisory teacher and student connection is the initial step in building and fostering positive school relationships. The flexibility of scheduling in our programs, such as being scheduled into 2 classes at a time for IS or 5 to 6 classes for PLA, and attending classes once or twice per week, allows students to work, take classes at Logan, take ROP classes, or take classes at a community college. Our 190 credit requirement for graduation not only helps those students who come to our school credit deficient, but also gives students who transfer to our school the option to potentially graduate a semester or even a year early. All of these opportunities that are given to our students through our 2 programs at DSIS definitely contribute to student success, which in turn can directly benefit their overall emotional well-being. Thank you.
In closure, we would like to continue to build and improve Dakota School and the PLA program to offer outstanding educational options for New Haven students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. I don't believe you have any questions or
I think we'll hold the comments
we
to the
can
end.
make the comments at the end, so thank you so much. All right, next up. Thank you.
It's me.
It's you. Okay, I was like. Okay, oh, New Haven Adult School, you are correct. Okay. Director of Alternative Programs, Grace Kim, will share a presentation about our New Haven Adult School. Thank you, Ms. Kim.
Thank you. I'm also the principal at the New Haven Adult School too. So Dr. Thompson and members of the board, it is my pleasure to present the adult school, making my next move in college, career, and life readiness. So in terms of highlights for the adult school, we have gone through many changes in the last couple of years. Some of the highlights are different class modalities such as in-person, online, and hybrid. We have increased our enrollment since reopening post-COVID onto a new campus. We have monthly career readiness workshops in collaboration with Aloni, which were integrated into our classroom instruction. We have restarted the digital literacy classes after a year of not offering it due to COVID-19. Since our move to our new location, we have increased our visibility through our website and signage to better serve our students. And last year, there was no need to offer on-site childcare, but this year we have reopened this service. Some challenges we face is that although we have increased our class modalities, we recognize that we still need to offer more to meet the needs of our students. Because of COVID, our students have missed classes due to family responsibilities and COVID exposure. Another challenge is providing students with immediate skills to make transitions for promotions and or higher education. One of the goals of the adult school is to prepare our students for college and career readiness. To support this, we offer English classes for language acquisition for work and home, citizenship classes for civic responsibility, high school diploma and GED classes for post-secondary education and job promotions. We have our caregiver training course for job placement and our digital literacy for everyday life skills to be a functional member of the community. At the adult school, we have identified 3 pathways for which are college, career, and life readiness. Each student receives an intake where we work with the student to determine the pathway. Students who are in the college pathway are interested in continuing their education, and ultimately they will enroll in our college prep writing and technology course. Students in the career pathway are interested in obtaining a job or getting a promotion, and these students will take our digital literacy and computer classes or enroll in our caregiver training program. Students who are in our life readiness pathway are interested in becoming independent members of our community, and many of these students take our ESL classes. Here is a sneak peek into our students' experience at New Haven Adult School.
My name is Bilgesh. I'm from Afghanistan. I started taking classes at the adult school in 2007, and I did not know the alphabet in English. I did not finish my school in my country. Now I am a US citizen. I have computer skill and I am in advanced ESL class. My goal is to get my GED and my beauty license. I am also proud of myself. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Hi, my name is Victoria Pintado. I am a mother, a wife, and a student. I started the high school diploma classes in 2021. I dropped out of high school in 2005. I started attending the high school classes here in New Haven during the pandemic, because the pandemic was an opportunity for me to continue my high school education. New Haven offered online classes and I was actually really close to home. I am hoping and praying to finish my high school diploma by the end of May. My next goal is to enroll in a medical assistant program. And now I feel like I can do anything. I feel empowered to continue my education. And if I can do it, you can do it too.
So the New Haven adult school students come from different walks of life. We have Belkis here, who's an immigrant working toward a GED, and there's Victoria Hurtado, who's a young mother working toward her high school diploma. We recognize that learning is a lifelong process that we hope the New Haven Adult School will fulfill. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Kim. Next, we have school celebrations currently here by our high school. Principal Dana Chavez will come and share a presentation. Thank you, Ms. Chavez.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, Cabinet, and Board of Trustees for having us here tonight to showcase Conley Carabello. I have with me one of our teacher leaders at Conley, Jessica Gonzalez. She's also serves as our Leadership and Activities Director at Conley. So she was instrumental in helping me with the presentation. So I thought it best to have her here to help us go through the slides with everyone. So before we begin though, Ms. Valdez put inside of all of your drawers that she said you never use, your hidden drawer. It is a granola bar made by our culinary arts students today at Conley. They could be still warm because you know we're overachievers at Conley. So
and they're delicious.
And they're delicious, exactly. So enjoy them. Yes. So they'll tie to our theme. You'll kind of understand why we did the granola bar. Yes. No, that's right. Where are your snacks? Exactly. Anyway, so we will get started with our presentation. Thank you. Okay, so in thinking about how we wanted to design tonight's presentation, because we have so much to showcase at Conley, we thought we wanted to tie it to a theme. And so one of the things that we do and has been an annual tradition, a quarterly tradition, a long-standing tradition at Conley is to take a school-wide hike. Our students, our staff, they climb up Mission Peak and take often a circuitous path toward the top. Students complain. Sometimes there are students that don't make it to the top. They need a ride back down to the office or to the campus. But most who make it find that it was time well spent. They're tired, they're sore, sometimes angry, but when they get to the top, there is something that is worth celebrating, and they all feel a real sense of accomplishment once they get to the top. So we wanted to kind of put our tonight's theme around that, making it to the top.
And not to mention, this is our view of our school. These are our hills. If you live in Union City, you know, these hills are really important to us. So at break time and as students are walking from class to class, this is what they see. And if you look closely at these pictures, the little dots are not cattle. They are actually our students on one of our hikes. I'm not sure which one this is, but it's great because each quarter the hills change, right? Sometimes they're green, sometimes they're brown, and sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold.
But they're always steep.
So next.
And so this is just, again, more pictures from our hikes and how we're going to approach tonight's celebration, so that we're looking at all the different quarters of our hikes that we take and mapping it out. And then with we end the year with the senior hike that'll be coming up next month, where our students then take some time who are graduating to celebrate their journey to the top.
And kind of like coming to Conley, there's a little bit of anxiety whenever you try something new. Sometimes our students have never hiked before. So our Q2 hike is the first one, and they're very nervous, but by Q3 and Q4, they get a little bit more used to it and more comfortable. And then, you know, they want to do it again at as their final activity before they graduate.
So as we discussed, some of the paths that students take to graduation, which we're considering in our presentation, the path to the top. No two paths are alike. Our students often take lots of breaks throughout that path. They can be very windy. They can be just straight right to the top. But no matter what, they are full of obstacles for almost all of our students. I haven't found that too many of our students have a very smooth path. They all have a very unique path to graduation. So we like to think that their path to graduation is like the hike that they take quarterly. It can be very challenging, as I've said, but there are different ways to get there. And so we like to celebrate all the different ways. When our students come to us from Logan, they often didn't know there was another way to graduation. And so we like to present them a different way of getting there and how it looks. We always tell them it doesn't matter how it looks or when it's going to happen. We're going to help you get there. And most of our students really come to appreciate that it's a very different way of getting, earning a diploma.
So Conley is like a hike. You can go to the next slide. We are full of varying ability levels, right? Some people have hiked before, some have not. Some students come to us credit deficient, while others are not behind in credits, but they come for different reasons, like improving their social skills. There's a ton of opportunities for growth at our school, not only credit recovery, but we have clubs and sports programs. And most importantly, we really try to build community at Conley, and going on our hike is building community every quarter. This picture you're seeing right here is when we go on our hike, we kind of stop for a snack at Guerin Park, and it's an open field. And this is an additional opportunity that students can take to push themselves to go up to the top of this hill.
So in mapping out our presentation, we wanted to ensure that there was alignment to our district's goals and action initiatives, and taking a look specifically at goal number 2 in the area of equity, access, and achievement. The next few slides will cover how we align with that particular goal.
I'll talk about our mission and vision. More beautiful pictures for you guys to see. Next slide. One thing I want to point out about this mission and vision statement is it was crafted in 2020 by our teachers and staff. And one word I should highlight here is safe, right? Our mission is to make sure students at Conley feel safe, and they do. We survey them often, and that's one thing that they say. We also want to make sure that if students have felt unsuccessful before, when they come to our school, they leave with a redefined identity, and they know that they are a student. And we also focus on personal growth, right? Not only are the academics are important, you as a person are important, and they know that when they leave here. And our vision for them is, when they leave and they are out on their own, they're self-sufficient and successful in whichever way suits them.
So we wanted to also focus on what brings students to Conley. Oftentimes, there's this notion that students who have perhaps gotten in some trouble, made some bad decisions at Logan, that's typically what brings our students to Conley. And that actually represents the smallest percentage of the reasons why students join us. It used to be for most continuation high schools, that was the reason why students came to our school. But in the last, it's just really been the last, I think, 10 to 15 years for most alternative education schools that they serve now students who have now taken a different path toward graduation. It's for credit recovery. It's for a smaller, safer environment. Maybe they need to have, they've taken on extra responsibilities. Many of our students, especially during the pandemic, have had to take on more hours at work or even to start working to help pay rent, to do other things other than school. So for our students, it offers that flexibility of time, not having homework assigned. That often is a #1 stressor for all of our students. When I meet with students for our intakes, that's the first question I'll ask. I'll look at a transcript and say, I can tell a story from this transcript, but I want you to tell me your story. What does this transcript tell or say to me about what's been going on with you? And almost all will tell me it's homework. Homework has been what has thrown them off course. And that is almost every student that I have met with at Conley. So to have that as one less thing for them to have to face, it feels like a big relief for them once they come to our campus.
We know our students are doing plenty of work. So why Conley? So we're going to hit on strategic goal of the inclusive and equitable environment. We do focus on academics and behavioral emotional support, and then we have plenty of on-campus services. So the first one is this inclusive and equitable learning environment. You see a picture here. One of our students actually was our main dancer, Aztec dancer, and performed at our Day of the Dead celebration. And we try to incorporate as many cultures as possible and celebrations. We have our co-ed softball team, and I feel really proud that our students who don't have any experience playing softball feel safe enough and supported enough to try something new. And then growth. We are constantly rewarding growth. I think a student here is getting a reward for increasing his NWEA scores.
And our softball team is currently 3-0. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Yes, Mr. Mattis, we are 3-0. Last week's it was a drubbing, as I like to say, 27-2. So why Conley? Again, looking at the academic, behavioral, and social emotional support that we offer that students will often feel at Logan because it was large. It has nothing to do with Logan. It is really inherent on any comprehensive, large, comprehensive, traditional high school. They're not getting that individualized support and having access to a counselor and all throughout the day, having behavioral support all throughout the day, and then having staff that just really individualizes and gets to know what they need and how to help them get through their pathway to graduation. Those are the things that our students really thrive in that environment due to that extra layer of support that we can offer.
We just recently had our college and career fair. And again, every student through a lot of our enrichment programs, students have a contact on our campus. They can go to at least one person in their campus that they have a connection with, and we're pretty proud of that. We recently had a student pass away, and as a school, we bound together and gave our students some school-wide support for that. Achievements, the fun part. I'm really proud of this, being activities director right now. We are constantly trying to recognize our students for growth, for the little milestones that they're hitting to get themselves to graduation. So we've had more than this, more awards than 594 given out just in the school year alone. This is everything from student of the month, student of the quarter, NWEA growth scores. It's just everything you can imagine, and students look forward to it. After that, we have this DEAR. It's not a program, but it's something we do. DEAR stands for Drop Everything and Read, and this has been going on for a long time at Conley, even before I got there. Students come to Conley usually not enjoying reading or reading for pleasure. They just read for their classes, and when they leave, they have read a book that they enjoy for themselves. So we're definitely proud of that. At Conley, we have a fabulous library and librarian that will get a student a book that is perfect for them.
And so just a few more quotes from students that we like to survey our students to always make sure to stay on top of what we're doing well and where we need to continue to grow. And so students, Conley students will always be very honest with us. They will tell us everything we need to know and then some. And so, but these are quotes that we've gleaned from recent surveys. Students that say that they're proud of the fact that they're finally staying on top of grades. And thinking about the awards, all of our students say, this is the first time I've ever gotten an award. So that's why we love giving them out, because again, it's unlike their previous school experience where they weren't the students in line for awards at any ceremony. I like that a student told me, I wish I had enrolled here sooner. They often tell me that. Their mistake that they'll say is that, gosh, I wish I had known. I wish I had come here sooner. So we're making a push to really identify students sooner before they get so far off track that it's never too late, but it's just going to take them a little bit longer. So we're really trying to push to identify students sooner so that we can support them and get them back on track earlier. One more. And then finally, students who've reached the top of the mountain, and you'll see the mountains in the back of our graduation pictures, most recently from the class of 2020. These are pictures from that ceremony. But these are students then again who are looking forward to that, reaching the end of that path. And we're looking forward to our celebration on May 23rd. We'll have a high number of students. We're still trying to identify a few more. We have kids that are still on the fence, but we're trying to push them again to the end of the path. And at Conley, we wanted to end with a quote that I found that was really the inspiration for tonight's showcasing of these slides, was to say that we write our goal in pen, but our path is written in pencil at Conley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez and Ms. Gonzalez. Next up, we have Sitting on Veracruz Middle School. And this will be presented by Principal Heather Thorner and Sonia Rodriguez.
Well, good evening, Dr. Thompson and members of the New Haven Unified School District School Board. Thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and show off IBCMS a little bit. I want to take just a quick minute and introduce Sonia Rodriguez, who is here with me. Sonia is an 8th grade core teacher who actually just finished her master's degree in educational leadership this past year. And she had a focus on equity. It's been a passion of hers for years. So when we decided where our goals for this year were and equity was going to be a hot topic, I immediately wanted to jump on board with Sonia, and her project this year for her master's program actually kind of led a little bit into the work that we got to do this year. All right, so if we can get started. So as this school year began, I think like everybody else, we had some ideas of what to expect and other things came flying at us and we had absolutely no idea. But as we started to kind of get through things, we started to figure out really fast, there is a lot of positive happening and there's also some challenges, but they're not necessarily all terrible and we can deal with that.
One of the first highlights was that we were all excited to be back in person with students actively learning and engaging in the classroom. We had smaller class sizes on all grade levels. That was very rewarding. We had more time to focus on individual students with less numbers. Learning loss definitely existed, but it wasn't a dramatic impact. Growth for all grade levels from fall to winter in NWEA. We were able to have more hands-on activities, social interactions increasing. The big excitement for me being a project-based learning teacher is that students were able to get back into their collaborative PBL groups. Like that was, I can't even explain to you how exciting to be back working together, facing each other and getting those discussions flowing and not the fear of COVID. Another big treat that we had was the Wellness Center and Student Support Services, major asset this school year.
we weren't without our challenges, I think, because everybody has experienced the student social interactions. As great as it was to have them back in the building and they could start to talk to each other again, what we realized very quickly is some of the interactions that they had over the year and a half of being at home weren't the most positive, and they would, let's just say they came back with some interesting new habits and interactions they wanted to have that we had not seen before. We also had COVID absences and the impact on every classroom, from the students missing a ton of class. You have kids out for 10 days at a time, and then they return and need to be caught up. We had teachers who had 8 to 10 kids out of every single classroom and are just constantly teaching and reteaching. But really what we started to see through this whole thing is, even though we're dealing with all these challenges, even though we have all these like extra things on our plate, it didn't change what we really already knew at the start of the year, which is our work around MTSS and our work around equity was going to be critical, especially with COVID. And it really, every single kind of interaction we had with the kid, kids really proved that to us. So as we started to sit down in ILT meetings, in department meetings, in staff meetings, we really started to come to the basic question of, okay, we know we need to tailor our work this year, and we know that we need to get to our students, but we also have to be sensitive to our teachers and what's going on there, and sensitive to the fact that our students are in and out of the classroom quite a bit because of COVID, especially at the beginning of the year. So we wanted to figure out a way to begin a solid amount of equity work, but we also wanted to be realistic about what is attainable this year. And so the question became, how do we ensure our classrooms are supports for all students? And this is really where we led off for the equity walks of this year.
Okay, so our site focus was around equity. And then as we met as an ILT team, we discussed how could we meet the needs for the MTSS supports on our site. As Heather already mentioned, we noticed, we're well aware, I'm a teacher, of the overwhelming being back in the building and with the challenges of COVID and the social emotional and just all of the things that came with the challenges. Teachers were swamped. So we still wanted to continue forward with our equity work. And a way to do that was to focus on the classroom environment. So we started with a staff meeting with professional development regarding the importance of classroom environment. And we were given articles, and we were able to reflect on our own classrooms and what things were working well for us, as well as the things that weren't being met in our classrooms. We took that PD and we went each individually back to our classrooms and had a ghost walk tool. I believe it's there. So where we had to sit individually and look in our classroom, in our environment, you know, and where we were, you know, meeting goals, where we were not meeting goals, ways that we can improve. And so we turned all of our ghost walk, after reflecting, we turned them all in. And then as an ILT team, we came back, met, discussed what were the two main challenges that we noticed that came out of that. Were the cultural representation of students. And I noticed that as well in my master's work. That was a big, in capturing student voice, a big area of concern that students even noticed. Teachers noticed it, students noticed it, so that was a common denominator. Another thing that we were lacking was high quality student work displayed in the room. So our next step after going through our own classroom environment and coming back as an ILT team and discussing was what we're missing is student voice. So how can we come together and capture the student voice? So that was our next step. We get the next slide. Okay, so we realized that we were missing the student voice, that it's both valuable and critical. Students know what they need in the classroom. They know what helps them to be successful and what doesn't work for them. So we requested teacher recommendations of students to be a part of this Ghost Walk team. We wanted a diverse group. We wanted students that were performing at different academic levels. We didn't want all high performing students or all low, or, you know, we wanted a diverse group of students. And so we had 45 students that we invited, and then we had 22 actually participate. 34 of our teachers volunteered to have their classroom walked through by students, so all subject levels were covered and met. We had 4 meetings with the students. The first 2 meetings were basically gathering, getting the students like acclimated of what we were looking for, and asking them, what do you think helps you to be successful in the classroom? And what are the things that are not helping you to be successful? And then we created our Ghost Walk tool, and that's on another slide. And then, yeah, so we created the Ghost Walk tool, and that was where students, through their own voice, what they saw was valuable, not us giving them the answers. It was try to be very objective to hear from them and get their input. Our last meeting, or then we did the actual Ghost Walk with students where they walked in the classrooms. We said nothing, just open the doors, let them go in, observe, and write down whatever they noticed. The last meeting was our actual pizza party where we captured their voice on video, Ms. Warner did, and this is where they gave advice to teachers.
So as we got a chance to take the students on a Ghost Walk, it was kind of an amazing experience, I have to be honest, because one, getting a chance just to work with the kids is always the best thing, but listening to their voice and even just being a fly on the wall when they start to talk and listening to the little things that are important to them became incredibly insightful. And I think for a lot of us, even the form that you're looking at right now, the form itself was just designed by the kids. It's what comes up in their natural conversation, where do they have value, where do they want to see things done differently, and just kind of giving them that opportunity is really what we did. And the debrief, I have to tell you, was probably my highlight of the school year so far. I do realize that there's another month or so, and promotions is one of them, which is going to be kind of exciting. But listening to the kids talk about, so after we did the Ghost Walk, and let me tell you how many times they would come up to me and check in with me and confirm when meeting dates were and things like that. Like, you felt that they had value. You felt that the kids felt that they had value, that their voice was going to be important and was going to be used. And that was just, let's just say we haven't had a lot of those opportunities in the last 2 years to really have those kinds of student interactions. So I think we're all as a staff just really enjoying it. So when we had this pizza party, I think the best thing to do is let you listen. We asked the students a question at the end. We let them talk. We took their feedback. We took lots of notes. We got all their papers. But at the end, I asked them a question. I said, what advice would you give a new teacher setting up their classroom for the first time? So if we can play the video. Oh, it didn't play. Can you get the one that says student advice?
It would be hard for like students at the door to see the Promethean board from like far away, or like some students could be like really tall and like other students can't really see behind those people. Also, where teachers place their desks, it's harder for kids to move around the classroom, and it can be really awkward walking all the way across the room just to get a pencil or something.
Advice that I give is that to put up your students' work, so it feels like a better environment to be in. Like that something you've done is on the walls and you can appreciate it.
When setting up your Promethean board and your desk, I think you should like try out every seat you have in the classroom so you can actually do the board and like if it's actually like usable to take notes and stuff.
So I think it's really important that you have a schedule that's easily visible to all your students, because I've been in classrooms where it was hidden in one corner. It took me like 5 minutes. I could find it when I was looking for it.
Classrooms out. I think only one classroom I've been to out of all of them had stuff that like actually represented like race and stuff like that. Otherwise, it was just like, oh yeah.
And even those posters is on like black and white.
So what does that kind of make you feel as a student when you walk in and that's the type of environment you're in?
It doesn't keep you motivated. It just feels very cold, and you know nothing about your teacher either.
You should like make it cute and add pillows.
Okay. Why should they make it cute and add pillows? What does that do for a student?
Because it makes it more fun to be in there and not feel like the classroom and just feeling cute and elected.
Where it had a lot of like posters, but I kind of felt like there was too much stuff on the wall.
And what happens when there's too much stuff on the wall for a student?
I feel like you kind of get confused because if you don't know where to look at like that first. So.
say to like add more stuff about like yourself? Because I feel like teachers think they add like, enough about themselves, but like it's not that much.
Like they do themselves and they like kind of open up to kids and stuff with their students. They would like the students would probably feel more comfortable and look at the teacher as someone like don't care.
So listening to the students was just really, and you're only getting kind of a smattering of what was there because they limited us tonight. But it was very powerful because I think it also reminded us to go back to some of the basics. These are middle school kids. They like to know the schedule. There's a reason they like to know the schedule. They want to know exactly when they're getting to go to the next class. But little things like that do end up making them more comfortable within the classroom. Knowing who their teacher is, understanding a little bit about their teacher became very important to them. And then the biggest step for us really is making sure that we are culturally representative of all of our students. When our kids are sitting in the room, they see themselves in whatever topic that they're learning about. For example, one of our science teachers has a poster of various scientists of all different races and cultures. I can't tell you how many of the students talked about that teacher and how important it was that they could just look up and see somebody that looked like them in the classroom. And then again, it's also those basic steps about, just knowing where kids can see a Promethean board and stuff, things like that. So kind of our next steps, we're going to be looking at the data through ILT. It's coming to the staff meeting in May. All the teachers are going to go through the data themselves. We're going to use some of our Title I dollars, and ultimately we're going to kind of figure out what supports do we all need to consistently put in our classroom. That was one thing that I heard from the kids. There's things happening in pockets, but it's not consistent. So to us, it became very clear that consistency in our classrooms is also critical. The last piece for us, I will tell you, is that this just very much connected us to the work that we know we want to do next year, which is more getting into those Tier 1 interventions with MTSS. So thank you. I'm glad we got an opportunity to show off our students a little bit tonight, some of the work that we've been doing, and I want to thank you for that opportunity, and thanks Sonia, because she definitely offered to come, but I voluntold is probably a little closer to it. So
It works when it's your passion.
yes, it does. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Garner and Ms. Rodriguez. There's something, hold on, that we are seeing in the agenda that we want to make sure. In executive content. Under
last year.
Okay.
Sorry, that's.
I apologize.
All right, moving on. We had some rogue things in our agenda. Okay, we will now be celebrating Diane Manuel Elementary School. Principal, there you are. Principal Bucket will share a presentation in celebration of Diane Manuel Elementary School. Go ahead, Mr. Bucket.
Thank you so much, board members, superintendent, and everybody tuning in at home. I did. Just want to say hi to them. It's my honor and pleasure to be able to represent Guy Manuel once again this year and share some of the great things that we've done for the 21-22 school year so far. As for our site commitment this year, it really is a theme about re-engaging students, staff, and community. Coming back obviously from 18 months of distance learning, we want to make sure that we connect with them, build relationships, and be able to bring back some of the things that we had in place prior to the pandemic, but also build on some of the skills and strategies that students were able to bring forward through distance learning, such as strong independent practice. We know our students had to build that independent practice while they're at home. Additionally, they want to make sure that we build on those computer skills and find a balance between that computer-based learning and then in-person learning. We don't want to throw either of them out. So we strive to re-engage our students in that work and our families. We also found some challenges. First and foremost, building that stamina to be at school for 6 hours. We had to, teach our students that they didn't need to get up for water every 3 minutes or take a lap around the classroom, but also recognize that those are things that students do need. And so being able to build on the social emotional needs of our students was another key component to this, and also challenging because it's different work than we've engaged in prior. Also, and finally on for this page, wanted to create equitable conditions for all. Thinking about the needs of our students coming back to school, thinking about the needs that were being supported at home, we needed to also recognize and build upon that. Again, that's an additional piece of new learning for all of us here at Manuel. So like many other schools, our focus was on site goal or strategic goal number 2, equity, access, and achievement. Specifically, we wanted to make sure that we re-engage in activities that we had put in place prior to the pandemic. We want to provide intervention, enrichment, and co-curricular activities for our students. That will also help build the relationships between our students, staff, and families. But before I go on, I wanted to have our students share, and I want to thank Mr. Galvan for putting together this video for everyone tonight.
Hello, New Haven community. It seems like we are getting closer and closer to going back to normal, and although we can't have guests on campus yet, we wanted to show you all of the awesome things we have been up to here at Diane Elementary.
But before we share with you all the things we love here at Manuel, let me share things that we don't miss about distance learning.
Black screens on Zoom. Short explanations. Unable to talk or play with our freezers and glitches on Zoom. Teachers getting kicked out of their own Zooms.
Those are all things of the past. Let's ask some Tigers, what are your favorite things about going back on campus?
Less emails to read. Better class discussions. Being able to play with people at PE every day. You get to see everybody every day. Seeing your friends. Eating lunch together with your friends. Prep classes.
Those are all awesome reasons why being back in person has been so much better. Our last question is, what makes Diane Manuel such an awesome school?
We have a school that welcomes everyone. We have students from all over the world. Events like Jogathon, Danceathon, and Camp Retreat. The staff, teachers that support students. Episode of Tigers Roar.
我们学校有中文课。
Having after-school programs like Kids Zone and Kids First. Learning the character traits like courage and respect. Having a different prep class every day. Our mascot. It's easy for us to tell you all the things that make our school great, but we think it's better to show you with a segment called Tigers with Tigers. These are quick clips of our Tigers enjoying life at Untitled.
We hope you enjoyed this small preview of what's going on here at Manuel. and hope to see you here. Until then, we're Tigers and we roar.
We roar! We roar! We roar!
So I hope you really enjoyed that. I know that's the highlight of the presentation. And as you can see, our kids are really engaged in being back at school. You can see so many of their comments are about being with their friends, about being in person, and it's about being able to provide that equity and access to the education, academics, and social emotional supports. So a little bit about the path that we took this year around creating equity for all. Back in spring 2021, we had conversations with all of our parent and teacher groups in order to plan for reopening. We looked at what is it that we need to engage in and how do we need to support the work as students return to us. We reflected on student surveys, parent surveys, self-reflections on how we're going to, as a staff, be able to come back. We also engaged with our school site council and our instructional leadership team, which is a team of educational leaders. So through all of that work and that prep, we opened schools, and in the fall, we took it one step at a time. As everybody in this room knows, it was hard to engage, but the pros outweighed the cons. We saw so much benefit from being able to bring back what was considered normal, at the 2019, 2020, and be able to provide opportunities to more access to academics, definitely more academic access to enrichment opportunities, interventions, and after-school supports. And so we've continued along that path until now. One of the big things that we've done as a site is use every single staff meeting, every single minimum day, professional development day, is to do site equity walks using tools from the EPIC education, being able to analyze and build upon some of the needs that we have. Taking small steps, big steps, but we want to make sure our students see themselves in their curriculum, in their classrooms, and in the work that they do. And so at the end of this school year, we're going to do another audit to see how we've done, what structures and routines we've built, and be able to then reflect back to plan for future years in order to build upon that. This is one example from the EPIC education that for our equity walk tool. There are multiple from this website. I'm not a sponsor of them, but I highly recommend checking out their website. There are many great tools that anyone can look at in order to analyze their work, self-reflection, and whatever groups they work with in order to provide equitable education to their students. And just to recap some of the same things, one of the highlights that I want to emphasize on here is also to look at the end of the year data. We want to analyze how our interventions and enrichment programs have supported our students, see how to build upon them or to revamp them for next year. We also want to look at the structures and routines that have been put in place, like having equity walks, having a focus on access, having a focus on reviewing how our students see themselves in their work and see how we need to build from there. And then finally, wanting to identify additional community partners that we've been able to bring in over the last 2.5 years to see what else is needed. Again, we want to build on what the foundation that we created over the last 2.5 years in order to see how we can support students even further. So with that, I thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Puckett. And now we will move on to Pioneer Elementary School. Principal Jeanette Alday will share a presentation in celebration of Pioneer Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, New Haven School Board and our community. My name is Jeanette Alday. I'm the principal at Pioneer Elementary, and I'm very proud to share some highlights and learning of this year. The focus, like all the other schools in New Haven, is really on students and how we can support in-person learning and connecting again with our students. Our goal was very clear: make school fun and enhance the love of learning. Oh, thank you. Some of the highlights from this year is that we continue to build on our SEL program, the implementation of Character Strong, Kimochis, having students identify their feelings and being able to have these big emotions and feelings and have ways of supporting each other. So students helping each other as well as staff, having these connections. We built on our MTSS program, and we have a strong cost team with grade level structures to support students. We have an inquiry cycle this year where we're looking at student writing, but one of the things that we've done at Pioneer is to not just look at the social emotional, but the academic. So when we look at it in a grid kind of form, the students that have higher academic needs still might have lower lower SEL needs. So we're kind of looking at that grid to see where the students are in their academics and their social emotional, and then give them what they need. Challenges this year is there is a learning gap, and that student independence was something that we need to help support because they don't no longer have their families there helping them and giving them that immediate feedback. We worked on writing and reading stamina. Holding a pencil was hard this year in the beginning of the year. We also provided SEL support for students and staff because we know coming back this year was going to be hard. It's amazing all the things that we've done during COVID learning environment. Our Pioneer site focus for the social emotional development is, as it says here at Pioneer, we actively promote social emotional learning for all students and adults in developing the skills, empathy, and resilience to care for ourselves and others so that we can positively contribute to our community. Our vision is to create a safe, caring, and inclusive learning environment that fosters resiliency, responsibility, supportive relationships, a growth mindset, and provide opportunities for students and staff to develop and practice important social emotional learning competencies. So that leans into goal number 2, equity, access, and achievement. And the initiatives here is to ensure inclusive, equitable conditions, develop and implement our tiered systems, and also academic and social emotional support, and coordinate student support services related to school success, attendance, and family stability. So what does that look like? What is SEL? Our goal really is to support students in self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, making responsible decisions. In other words, SEL empowers students with abilities that directly impact not only their academic lives, but also their success and happiness as adults. Some of the programs that we have a wellness center, like many of the other schools. We've developed a wellness basket for every school classroom. Kids in the lower grades, they walk in with the Kimochi chart and they kind of identify their feelings before they even come into the classroom. And we talk about having big feelings and what we do with big feelings. The Character Strong program has a monthly theme that we do, and our students, along with the words of wisdom in the morning, students also create their own words of wisdom to share with other students at the beginning of the day. So if you look at the graphic on the lower left corner, our focus really is students in the center, helping build student agency. And around that is the academic supports that we have, as well as in the second layer, looking at their social emotional development and all the things that we do to also support them there with friendship groups and peer buddies and things like that. And then along the outer edge is all of our systems, our cost, IoT, collaboration, PTC, our equity committee, all the wonderful structures that we put in place to help students. Next slide, please. So our school-wide SEL program, Creating a Culture of Wellness, began before I got to Pioneer, but really 2017 and 18, the equity work was learning, getting to know our students and families. That was work that we did with Enid Lee. And then in 2018 and 19, we talked about trauma awareness and students with trauma, invisible boxes, and how to unpack that from the perspective of students. How can we see what they see? How does a student come to school prepared if they had a lot of trauma or they had an incident before they got to school, or it was a struggle even to get there? In 2019 and 2020, we looked at trauma awareness and self-awareness with some work with Tiffany Papa-George. And for students, what we're really thinking about is how do we help you handle big feelings? How do we identify those feelings in the lower grades? And what do we do with them when we get older? When I'm upset, what do I do? What happened? What do I do when it's in the yard? What do I do when it's in the classroom? For staff, we are recognizing secondary trauma and creating a plan for self-care and renewal. And that is more important than ever in our schools. Next slide, please. So looking at changing the school system for support, we're looking at trauma in the system. We are more trauma informed as a school site. We have a shared language about trauma, but we're really moving towards a healing organization and how we can be reflective and collaborative and create this culture of support for one another. This year, one of the things we did was Wellness Wednesdays. A couple times a month when we know that teachers were stressed. We did that where all staff could come and just enjoy each other for a little while during their lunch periods. For students, we have the Wellness Center, and we also have other opportunities by appointment or counseling for students to connect with an adult at school. Next slide, please. The timeline of work started back in 2020 with a survey and some staff feedback and student feedback. In the fall, we started looking at our Tier 1. In the winter, adding on a layer of Tier 2, support this MTSS model, and building on that with a Tier 3 support in the spring and beyond. Next slide, please. So this was a reflection that our staff did back in 2021. We looked at social emotional, what do we know about students? And we looked at the what, now what? And we also looked at our grade level priorities. So we across grade levels collaborated and talked about what students might need social emotionally, academically, and school-wide. Next slide, please. In the fall, the winter, and the spring, we kept adding on extra support. Tier 1 looks like developing a classroom routine, developing class culture, the class meetings in the morning, when to meet, how often we meet are things that kids gave some feedback about. Discussing expected behaviors. We underwent some PBIS a few years back, and we are still, it's not a one-time training, but an ongoing journey in how we help students with expected behaviors at our school. And this year we implemented the Kimochi, Character Strong, Words of Wisdom, some restorative practices, and we continue our PBIS journey. Tier 2 looks like wellness room, our wellness room, and also our friendship club and some small group kind of clustering for connection. We brought on an awareness of relationships with all staff, yard duty, as well as our cafeteria staff. And our Tier 3 really is more of a pull-out support or push-in support. Next slide, please. So our next steps is looking for and building on equitable assets. We want to include all stakeholders. And one of the things that I'm still working on is helping it's hard when we can't have the parents on campus, but we really do want them there to help with their voices. And though I have an equity committee where parents are involved, and we have a wonderful PTC community and an ELAC, as well as some of our other parent groups, but it's not quite the same when we don't get to meet with them in person. We also want to continue our staff learning together. We do PDs as a whole staff. And we have a book club that we're working on, looking at the co-regulation handbook. Next slide, please. So we also have this equity focus of bringing awareness and elevating student voice. The work is done in our equity committee, at ILT, at staff. We did a staff learning walk, and we did a staff reflection. Students also created a survey to kind of see, so we kind of matched up where we are with the teacher feedback as well as the student feedback. And we've discussed our learning at SSC, and what we really want to do is elevate student voice. This is a timeline of our journey here too. Next slide, please. This is the equity walk tool that the staff is using this year. ILT determined that we want to focus on 2 areas: the relationship building in terms of respect and connectedness, and the relevance, the choice and personal relevance as we're continuing on our personalized learning journey with students. The students adapted that survey, and the 4th and 5th graders surveyed every 4th and 5th grade classroom to get some feedback on what they see. So on one side, on relationships, it says, on the staff survey, it says, it looks like the teacher genuinely cares for each student. What the student said that interpreted, how you interpret that is that my teacher cares about me. And so they went around asking, do you feel like your teacher cares about you? And then they checked it off if the feedback was yes. So we kind of tried to get both staff and student feedback. One of the things still missing, I think, is our parent feedback, and that's something to work on. Next slide, please. Another thing that our health and wellness teacher and I did was create a podcast. We've had 3 sessions working on the 4th one. And once students get that little buzz of my voice matters, they just keep asking, when's the next podcast? Can I be on the next podcast? Can we talk about this? And so elevating student voice, it was just showcasing that our school just thrives in diversity, a place where everyone belongs, and that our podcast elevates student voice and efficacy. We invite you guys all to listen. The links are there as well. Next slide, please. Thank you for allowing me to share some of the highlights of Pioneer.
Thank you very much, Principal Alday. And then we will have next, Delane Easton Elementary School. Principal Mary Rodriguez will share a presentation about Delane Easton Elementary School.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, members of the New Haven Unified School District Board. My name is Mary Rodriguez. I'm the principal at Delane Easton Elementary School, and I am honored to be here to share some of the things that we're doing this year. So I'd like to start with just some overview of just lots of things, and then we'll go into a little bit more focus. But this year we added a new SDC classroom, which means now we are serving SDC, moderate severe students from preschool, pre-K through 5th grade. So that's been really exciting. We've had a return to traditions in terms of things like the fun run and the Halloween parade, trunk or treat. Our specialists are, I think, known throughout the district for the integrated units of study that they do for drum fit, and we did square dancing, and this year we even did a combined media and music program around stories and opera. And so that's just something that is really great at Easton. We reimagined some of our community events so that we could hold them outdoors. and we had a wonderful spring book fair. I think I'm pretty sure every single person in the community came. We had fire, EMT, food trucks. And so we are going to redo that again in the spring, and we are also going to incorporate a engineering and science fair as part of that. We've had a health and wellness focus, and this has been really great because one of the things we've been able to do is really bring in the books that are tied to that are suggested and tied to our SEL curriculum, and curate a library specifically around SEL books that all the teachers can borrow and use in their classroom. And so that's been a wonderful addition. You're going to hear a lot about collaboration that our teachers have done this year. And, like everybody else, we've had some challenges. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that. We've been really creative and came together to work through those solutions. But it's been an overwhelming year. Staff has been overwhelmed, students have been overwhelmed, parents have been overwhelmed. I think what has helped is that we've been very supportive of each other, and we've had a very strong site focus. And I do feel like that has helped get from that sense of being overwhelmed day to day to actually feeling like we have a goal of things that we're working towards, and we can see the fruitions of that work. One of the last things I'd like to talk about is just in general is our Equity Council. We've had an Equity Council that has had a very strong group of students and a small dedicated staff member or staff group. And one of the things that we're currently working on is the students that are in the 5th grade part of that would like to do a lesson on stereotype for all of their classmates. And so we're currently working on an action step out of that where the students are creating a lesson plan and the 5th grade teachers are on board with having them come in and actually do the lesson plan and co-facilitate the lesson plan with the teachers. So that's something that we are going to be rolling out before the end of the school year. Our main work, and what I'm mostly going to talk to you about tonight, is our work with response to intervention. And this falls under the umbrella of MTSS. While the name response to intervention sounds like it's just about interventions, it's actually about much more than that. It really aligns to goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, and goal 5 of our district strategic plan. And we also are we've been very strategic in how we've been implementing response to intervention, and it is aligned to our Bridges MAP program. So it's just a little, hopefully fun teaser into what we've been doing. I have a little video here for you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why we're focusing on response to intervention. And really, this is about creating a system in which all students learn at high levels and all staff members are invested in all students. It's equity work to ensure that all students get what they need to be successful. And another really important aspect of RTI work is that it is focused on actionable steps. So our approach this year at Easton has been to implement the 11 foundational steps for RTI within this school year, but we're doing it with a limited number of essential standards. And we will continue to assess our program's effectiveness, its efficacy, And then as we move forward, we will grow the number of essential standards, both academically and behaviorally. And so why did we decide to focus on math? I'm not gonna lie, I used to be a math teacher, so that might have a little bit to do with it. But what we knew coming into the school year is that we were unable to fully teach all of the standards last year. There just wasn't enough time in the school day and in the type of environment we were in. And so when we look at math, it was really imperative that we look at the acceleration model of learning, so that we ensure students have access to their full grade level of standards this year, while still taking into account that we might need to do some prevention work based on what they did or didn't get last year. Our site data shows that this is an area that we need to focus. And quite frankly, we have not had an intervention program, a sustainable intervention program for math. And then finally, and this is a very passionate area of mine because I was a high school math teacher, but math is the only subjects in which we differentiate starting in the 6th grade. And so when students leave our building, how proficient they are has absolute outcomes for what their path in high school looks like. So if we, hopefully you'll see some, I think you'll see some continuity between some of our presentations, which I hope you appreciate. So our timeline for this work really started last spring. And it really came out of the work that our math curriculum leader was doing and the conversations that we were having. And it's continued in a very systemic way. There are very specific things we've put into place at each portion of our journey with this work. And this is not work that's done. This is a focus that we are going to continue to have for many years to come, because it's going to take many years for us to get great at it. In the spring of last year, we used Achieve the Core. And Achieve the Core is really about understanding the connections of all the standards and how they progress towards being ready for algebra. And so we have one of our teachers, Ms. Shockley, who's going to share a little bit about our work.
During the spring of last year, our site professional development focused on mathematics and looking at essential skills that lead to readiness for algebra. We used Achieve the Core for this work. Each grade level came together to look at major clusters that support algebra readiness. We identified which standards had been taught, which standards we're still going to teach before the end of the school year, and any other standards we may not get to. We also discussed how we engage students with these standards and what our assessments look like. Next, we then met with a grade level before ours and after ours to share this information. As a 3rd grade teacher, this helped me have a clearer understanding of what my incoming 2nd graders have been taught and what I may need to take into consideration for the next year. I was also able to share the same information about my students with the 4th grade teachers. The focus on this work meant that all of us were learning about essential standards in a cohesive way. We also see how each grade level plays an essential role in getting students ready for algebra. Because we looked at the vertical articulation, we understand more clearly why it's so important that students learn specific skills as they build each other with purpose.
Okay, and then moving into that was the end of last year. Really, we spent the last 3 months of last year on that work. And moving into the fall of this year, we started out our year talking about the acceleration model of learning and tier 1 in preventions. And so this was really important because we can't assume our students need remediation. First, we have to make sure we do everything we can to ensure they get access to that grade level curriculum. And so I'm going to have Mr. Nay, one of our teachers, talk a little bit about this.
As we look to implement Tier 1 support in math, we began to administer screeners before a unit is taught. The screeners are a brief diagnostic assessment that helps us identify concepts and skills that students have in place, and more importantly, areas where extra support may be needed. This timely identification of gaps in learning allows us to address any deficits before a unit is taught, along with any follow-up based on student performance.
And so we really ensured that we never talked about intervention until we really talked about what is strong Tier 1 curriculum, what do we need to take into consideration to ensure that all students have access to that, and the use of screeners of prevention before we even taught a unit. And then starting in the winter, and this work really started around November, we started talking about Tier 2 interventions. And Tier 2 really can only come into play after you've given good solid core curriculum and you know what students were able to master and not master and what standards are critical for students to have at the grade level. And so here's a little bit again from Mr. Ney about what that looked like on our campus.
For Tier 2 intervention, we were able to use the unit checkpoints and work samples to identify students who need more intensive support. We allocated site resources to allow the students to receive their Tier 2 support from the people who knew them the best, their teachers. This allocation has led to another adult in the room to guide the majority of the class while the teacher meets with small groups to address any lingering misconceptions from Tier 1 or new deficits that have arisen during the unit.
And so one of the big things that we were able to do in Tier 2 is really change the way we look at intervention. The big shifts were that we were no longer talking about after school intervention, everything was done during the school day. And we reallocated our resources so that the people giving the interventions were the teachers. And they were the ones most qualified to give the interventions. And we were able to add additional support into the class so that they could pull small groups of students to do that. And what we are working on right now is we are working on building our Tier 3, and Tier 3 is really based on those skills, which you absolutely, those foundational skills, which you must have to be able to, just work within your class on a daily basis. And so we are in the process right now. We've just made a big, huge leap. All of our teachers are in the middle of screening students for Tier 3. And I'm going to have Miss Chawla, one of our teachers, talk a little bit about this.
Tier 3, or the redemption stage, is where we currently are in our planning. The major milestones for this phase include identifying a systematic assessment for all grade levels, identifying students needing the intense instruction, and creating a plan to support these students that starts within the first few weeks of the new school year. To identify a systematic assessment, we had a discussion about what essential math skills are needed to hit the ground running in the next grade level. For example, the kindergarten team consulted with the first grade team to discuss math skills that first grade assumes every kindergarten student knows. Similarly, every grade level had this discussion with their vertical counterpart, and we come up with mathematical skills every student needs for every grade level. The next step is to identify the screeners. Now that we've identified the skills, we are looking for appropriate universal screeners to identify the students needing Tier 3 support. Once these are identified for all grade levels, we will implement these screeners for at-risk students. Once the universal screeners are finalized, it will be given to students at the end of the year. The students we will target are students who have a winter math report card score of 1, winter NWEA results less than 20 percentile, winter math report card score of 2, and a winter NWEA less than 25 percentile. Before the year is over, we will have our list of Tier 3 students who will receive support at the beginning of the next school year.
Okay, and so just yesterday, we rolled out the screeners that every single staff member is going to use with their targeted group of students, and we'll have that data before the end of the year so that we will know exactly what students need starting the first week of school next year. So when we start within that first week of school next year, we can start with high intensity tier 3 work in foundational math skills. And so, you know, this work is not done. Our goal was to put 11 foundational pieces into place, and we have been able to do all of those things. Our goal will be to start our tier 3 in the very first week of school next year. And some things like our next to-dos are really working our cost team in, because in order to do our chat with fidelity, you need to have 2 types of leadership teams. One is our instructional team, but the other is our problem-solving team. So we're really going to look at reimagining our cost team as our problem-solving team. And then, like I said, you know, you can't, this is a huge amount of work to do, and it can be really overwhelming. So the way you do it is the way you eat an elephant is 1 bite at a time. And so we chose very specific essential standards to work on this year. We're going to be adding more, and then really looking at the efficacy of our system and getting collectively better. And so I've been so amazed and proud of the work of our instructional leadership team and every single staff member, because through all of the challenges of this year, at no point did they say, this is not worth doing. At every step of the way, it was like, yes, we're overwhelmed. Yes, it feels like a lot, but we know it's the right work, and we're going to work hard. Let's work hard on the right thing. And so alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So I'd like to thank you for your time and the opportunity to talk a little bit about our work.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, and thank you to all the principals and staff that came to talk about your wonderful schools. We will now go to board member comments. We'll start with our student board member, Kalani Keldron.
Hello. I know a lot of faces out there. Hi. I just wanted to say, as a student that's been in New Haven 11 years, yeah. Wow, 11 years in New Haven. And as a student, I've seen a lot of great sites. I've been to 3 great sites myself, you know, as a student. It's amazing to know what work we have going on out there. It makes me wish that there was a better way that we could continue to show everyone what New Haven's about, what every site's about. But I think that's why we do what we do, Celebration of Schools. I know that's why I do what I do as a student at Logan. Great job to all of it. I know as myself on the many different committees and the different forums I've sent out, even at elementary level, it's a big thing. Mental health, cultural representation. That's something that we were talking about before tonight's celebration even started. Just so many different things to play into factor, so many different things that amazed me tonight, especially this, by the way. Thank you. That was really good. I think, and I mentioned this earlier before, again, the celebration had started. I have a 5-year-old sister who I've been trying to figure out what site does she want to go to? What site are we gonna? And it makes it harder because we have so many different amazing sites. Every single one continues to amaze our community as a district. I think we should be proud of all that we have. I think that we should be, we should continue to thrive and to support one another from site to site, from team member to team member. I personally I'm amazed. I'm thankful to have grown up in such a district, to have been here to see all of this. I couldn't thank everybody enough for all the hard work. Just knowing the type of district we have makes me as a student feel like, wow, I'm blessed. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful to say that I've worked with so many great people, and I've had so many great educators, as all of you in the crowd. So thank you.
Trustee Camus.
We come back to.
I'll come back to you. Just finish your prayer.
Okay, so I want to start by saying thank you so much. The presentations, one of the things that really came out was the student voice. I think that's one thing that we brought up at the last meeting, definitely came through here. There are a couple takeaways. And I'd like for the team, for the board up here to start thinking about some of these things as we start to form our next strategic plan, because there's a lot of things that were in here that came from students that I'd like to at least call out. One was I'd like everybody to kind of think about how I recently listened to a podcast around how we're not going back to the way that we were pre-COVID before COVID. And so I guess the things that I'd like for everybody to think about is what are the things that that are going to stick, and what are the things that you'd like to leave behind, right? So think about that kind of at the front of your mind. One of the things from the New Haven adults school presentation was the point that was made by the student that said the pandemic was an opportunity to continue education. That to me was really profound, because it really underscores the moment that we just had. CCHS I loved the theme of the hike. You could definitely overlay that literal hike with the hike towards student success. One of the things that I'd like to start thinking about for our strategic plan for the next is the role that homework plays in the work, like what is the role of homework? I know that we've talked about homework in the past ad nauseum, but do we actually have a plan for how are we going to employ homework in a way that doesn't burn out students, that actually has positive academic outcomes associated with them? I know we've talked about it in this past, but we should probably get very, very clear and concise, because the amount of homework is probably pushing a lot of people towards what they feel to be academic failure. With IVC, I love the videos around the student empathy, around these are the things that I'd like to, for every new teacher setting up their classroom, these are the things to think about. In my industry, that's what we do. That's user research. That is going to the customer and asking them exactly, what they need, how they're experiencing their educational experience. There's a bunch of other things in here. What I would also like to highlight is Emmanuel, definitely the video with the most personality. And I will say that I just loved having the student voices in there. It was very fun, lighthearted. But when you listen very closely, those are the things that a lot of adults don't think about. But those are the things that actually really matter to our students. Thank you so much for bringing up the trauma awareness. And that's something that I'd like to kind of double click on a little bit more, because I don't think we talk about it enough, Principal Alden. The other thing was when you talked about podcasts. Now I saw podcasts, and I also have another note around video production. One of the things that we talk about a lot is writing, and writing is really important, because all writing is organized thought put to words. But in this TikTok generation, really the next modality of self-expression is video production. And it's about taking a message and making it concise. Say what you want to say in 30 seconds, take people's, and there's a lot of editing there, right? And I think that we really should kind of figure out how to do this more effectively, more efficiently, and give our students the tools that they need, not just the video tools, right? Because the video tools they know the video tools better than all of us, right? But the tools in being able to craft a narrative, to be able to distill information very clearly and say what you want to say in a nice, light, meaningful way. These are all skills that when we talked about podcasts, that's next generation modalities for self-expression. You should really start to focus on that a little bit more. I have a lot more to say, but there's other board members here. So thank you all. Thank you so much for all of your work. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, over Tima.
So first of all, thank you so much. It feels so good to be in this setting after a long time. And Dr. Thompson, he has suggested about this forum celebrating our schools. Last year, because of the pandemic, we all know that it was not that successful. So being in the room with the leaders who deal with these situations every day, it's so meaningful. Listening firsthand your experiences and presenting all this very valuable information. And one of our students, he has expressed all the good things. I was thinking, so nothing else has left for me to say. So one more point my fellow board members have mentioned about the next strategic planning. My sister other day, who is a teacher in Canada, in Toronto, she sent me a small clip of TikTok video. She said in the previous times, because I'm former agency, teachers used to advise to the students, make the choice. Number one, engineering. Number two, engineering. Number three, engineering. But now time has changed. Now we need to have the writers, video content creators, and new era. This is the new era. We are living in this defining moment. So you are the leaders shaping our future generation into your hands. Thank you so much for all of your good work, and really appreciate that. And next time, if there is a hike scheduled, please don't forget to invite us. I'd love to hike too. And it's a very good way of engaging students and connecting them to their real life journey. Very creative. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Member Gonzalez?
Yeah, as good as it feels to showcase your school and the pride you have for it, it's better to be done with it. You guys did your presentation, the anxiety is over, you're doing good of yourself, so everybody did a really great job. But there was one leadership team admin that went above and beyond and really impressed us. And that is Conley, who brought snacks. You hit me in the stomach, and I'll always remember this is very delicious. The texture, the content here, yummy. So,
just to add on that one, they used to invite us for the luncheon in May or so. So hopefully that will be in the making. Thank you.
Yeah, in all seriousness though, all presentations warm my heart to see our school sites out there doing terrific work. Reaffirm that our district is the best. I work for another district, and I'm always bragging though, and just telling the great things that we got going on within our district. So keep up the good work. I can't wait for my son and my future children to attend these New Haven schools. And all of them are really great. To be able to say I went to the school where my dad goes to, or my aunts and uncles, cousins, grandparents. And there's a reason why that this district is amazing, and it starts off with leadership. People like y'all that are doing that work day in, day out. But I do want to talk about the alternative, the personalized learning. Logan isn't for everybody. That school can swallow you whole. As much as I want my son to go to Logan, if that's not the right choice, the best fit for him, then the alternatives are fine. The adult education, what is that, academy, personalized academy, Conley, any of those are fine, as long as they can be successful, as long as they're confident, they feel safe. Those are the right choices for them. My niece, who went to Conley, was very successful, and talking about her K through 12 experience, her fondest memories were at Conley, where she met her future husband and has children there, and is doing really great things because of Conley, and that was the right choice for her. So in conclusion, just survive the school year. This is one of the most memorable years. I know personally of my education, in my career, and y'all, admin are some of you are in the classroom every other days filling in for substitutes, and y'all know who are just, you never thought about how important substitutes are, like how valuable, like we need them in there, and so I appreciate you for doing that. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for just doing what you do every day. Your leadership matters, but I know for me, it keeps me strong, keeps the people in your school site, your community strong, holding it together. So just get through this year, and next year will be better. And then I do have a bias to an admin, Mary Rodriguez. I started off preschool with her, and we made it through Cyril's, New Haven. It was called New Haven back then, Logan, and all the way through. And she's doing great things. So I do have a bias, a favorite there up there. So keep doing the great things you're doing. Thank you. I just want to end my comments on that.
Thank you, and congratulations to you on your assignment. Okay, Trustee Callis, are you ready? Okay.
First of all, I'm looking at this presentation from many different perspectives as a teacher, as a principal, a trustee, and a community member. And I would really like to thank you for all the hard work in putting something like this together. It may be just a few minutes, but that took so much time. So I'd like to thank your staff as well for working with you and for you in motivating them and being a leader with them and putting this together. So thank you for doing that. What really resonates with me is your ability to work with the students and trying to get the students' voice in, making sure that they are heard and see what is important to them. We all have our objectives, we all have our desired outcome and so on, and I'm sure Dr. Thompson is pushing that you need to cover these things. But when you're working with, teachers are working with the students, the more fun something is, the more they learn. So a project-based visuals, and Mr. Nishihara mentioned the role of media and the filming, and the question of how do we deliver a message to our students like you did to us today, because we were your students today, in the quickest way possible, using all the different modalities, especially the visuals, and keeping your students' interest. And as we heard from the research that you were doing regarding the equity and asking the students what they would advise their new teachers to do, a lot of it the students are asking about many different things, but involvement, the interactive, the ability to be a part of their learning, not just being dumped information to, because that is boring and it could put people to sleep. But how do they become a part of the learning? How do they manipulate the ideas so that they are doing the learning? They're not being told about what they ought to learn, but they're being shown what they ought to learn, and they're doing that learning. So even for us today, I woke up when I heard the music that really got my attention, even if it was not saying anything, because it's getting through all my different senses. It's not just I'm just not hearing about something, but I'm being shown what that is. So thank you for listening to your students. Thank you for giving the opportunity to have a say in what they're learning and how they should be doing that. But I also like to emphasize that thank you for taking care of your staff. Somebody mentioned, I believe, pioneer the culture of support for one another and the checking off the feelings before you start teaching or before you start having a staff meeting, because that kind of determines how you're going to approach your presentation, because then you know how your audience is doing. As a teacher, if my students were falling asleep about my lesson and they're telling me, Ms. Canlis, we heard this before, I don't want to hear about it, then I will change my way of delivering that information. So thank you for valuing your students, valuing your staff, and one last word, for making school fun and the love of learning. Because at the end of the day, I forget what I just hear, but I will remember something I experienced. Thank you so much for all your hard work. It's gonna be a great year. And like Mr. Trustee Gonzalez said, this is going to continue to be the best district in town. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank you all for all of the effort that went in. Maybe I'll stand up. I can't see everybody. For all the effort that went into all your presentations. And I know it was a lot of work. We pushed this back because of COVID and the Omicron surge. And we've just all been through so much in the past few years, especially those of you in the classroom, on the ground, on the school sites with the students. And I just want to thank you for all the extra effort you've put in to make sure our students are okay coming back to school this year. I know it's especially hard in elementary with kids that had never been to school before, coming in mid-education and going into the classroom and learning how to sit still and all of that. I know that was probably crazy. And I loved the focus on equity. We've been really focusing on that as a board. And I saw that throughout everyone's presentations. You know, how are you making sure with MTSS and RTI and everything else that all students are getting a quality education, every single last one, that no students are left out, no students are allowed to fall behind. And especially is evident in this particular round of Celebrating Schools, because we have our Dakota school, our PLA, our adult school, Conley, all these amazing programs that we have in our district that I think is pretty unique. And it's one of the things that makes our district the best district in the Bay Area. So yeah, and the whole entire East Bay at least. I love hearing about all the programs and all of the things like the customized schedules and programs. Loved watching the videos of students, staff, and teachers. I love the childcare at the adult school. I think we might need that in some of the high schools as well. And just the powerful stories about the women from Afghanistan, just thinking about all the things in the news recently and how girls in Afghanistan don't finish school. and now, you know, immigrants can come here and they can get their education and they can thrive and be empowered. And the other story with the second chances of being able to go back and get your high school diploma. Those were just really impactful for me. And of course, Conley, I love all the programs, the hikes. I kind of want to hike Mission Peak. Start training now. How many miles? Probably like 3 there and 3 back. Okay, I'm gonna be hiking every weekend here already. Okay.
Going down is faster.
Yeah. I love that focus on student safety and empowerment. And I was able to attend the graduation at Conley last year and heard in person and met in person these students, some of whom have overcome great obstacles to get their high school diploma. And I was very touched about how much they talked about how the staff really cares about you. It's really individualized attention. So for IBCMS, I love the equity walks, and then everybody else talked about them too. So that was amazing. I love the engagement of students. Going to Manuel, I always talk about this, but I live across the street, and on the first day back to school in the fall, I could hear the roar of the tigers coming in through my windows as they were doing PE and recess, and just you can hear them like screaming and laughing, and I literally cried just hearing the students back on campus, seeing them walk across the street to get to school. And I love the podcast, The Pioneer. And then Delane Easton, I got to actually participate in the opera program. I guessed appeared for that with those students, and it was amazing seeing their engagement and their excitement. You know, you like math, I love music. It's my degree, and also enjoyed the operatic suspenseful video that you made. Really woke us up, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's really a good idea if you're doing the last presentation to put some like really energetic music in your presentation. That was a good plan. And overall, just the wellness centers and this, you know, social emotional learning that's been going on this year. I think that those are very important building blocks that we can hopefully build on going forward. You know, Trustee Nishihira talked about what to keep or leave. And I think that we learned through this that SEL is extremely important for the development of our students and for their academic success. And sit down for the rest of this, even though y'all are great over there. Oh, is my time up? I was like, okay, wrap it up. And we're almost to the end of the year, so I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in your year-end activities. Please survive the students with like 9 toes out the door. And I mean, just great job. It's so nice to close out the first year back and to be in person again and to start, you know, returning to whatever normal is going to be going forward. So thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. We're the best district in the East Bay, and Trustee Canlis wants to have the last word. Go for it.
That's not why I'm raising.
Oh.
Well, you know, we joked about this, having something given to us, which is wonderful. But I just want us to remember, think about the kids. When we incorporate and integrate the music, the food, and all those wonderful hands-on activities that they do. Think about how much we all learn when we taste it, we touch it, we manipulate it, and not just read about it or heard about it. So I'm a proponent for make school fun, because when kids don't even think that they're learning and they think they're playing, they learn so much more. And I know I do.
Yeah.
Have a principals, you have fun too. You work too hard. I know, teachers, you work too hard, but enjoy what you do, because that's what your kids are going to remember. So have a wonderful rest of the year.
Dr. Thompson, would you like to say anything?
Well, tonight's really about all of you sharing what you've done at your sites with our board and the community, and you all did that very successfully. So I know it wasn't easy. I know you thought that doing this was crazy at some point in the year, right when Omicron hit, but you persevered. You did a great job. So thank you. Very successful job tonight. And I hope our community is out. I hope somebody's out there watching it. So anyway, thank you all.
Yes, thank you. This will all be on YouTube. And at that, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Have a wonderful evening.
Our board meeting is ready to